Don't right-click women on boats. It throws them overboard. I mean, I guess right-click women or anyone on boats all you like. I'm not your dad. Just know that doing so throws them overboard, as does right-clicking any goods that are stored on a ship. A big thank you goes out to Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. I appreciate the opportunity from Ubisoft to bring you these 45 tips I wish I had known before embarrassing myself with my first playthrough of Anno 117 Pax Romana. So, on to the rest of them. Instead of right-clicking the bits in your boat to throw them overboard, when you have your ship selected, you can right-click somewhere on the minimap to send the ship there. This is how I get most of my early game exploring done. You can also right-click one boat while you have another selected to assign the selected boat to escort the right-click E. Of course, this is most useful if you're assigning a military ship to escort a civilian ship, perhaps as it's making a trade route or you're sending it to settle a new island. By default, pressing tab switches focus between your ships. Hey gang, don't forget you have a boat. I mentioned this in my previous video, which is a great video for any new Anno players. Check it out. But man, I am constantly forgetting that I have a ship at the beginning of the game until hours pass, and I sheepishly send my little guy out exploring. Beside exploration, the other main use I find for my ships in the very early game are contracts found in other governors' lighthouses. They provide little injections of cash to work with and can help up your relationship with that governor, kickstarting your diplomacy game. You may also find an island belonging to an emperor's representative. Look for this symbol under requests at their trading post. It means they'll buy any good from you, which can be helpful to earn a quick buck. You can also buy extra materials from them or the free trader if you need a quick top up and don't yet have trading rights with the other governors. Speaking of kickstarting and topping up, before you send a ship off to settle a new island, load it with some basic production chain materials so you can get your new settlement up and happening more quickly. Consider having one island worship Neptune and use that island to specialize in producing ships. Each of these milestones in Neptune's worship lower the upkeep cost and raise the hit points of any ships built after they have been reached. Keep in mind that if you change which patron god an island worships, you lose all the points you've gained along the bottom here. These will be at 0 for the new deity, of course, but will also reset back to 0 if you ever choose to go back to worshipping that same patron god on that island. Switching worship can definitely make sense at times, but if you can have a plan thought out rather than swapping over and over, you'll experience more rewards overall. Don't forget to take some time and snoop other islands, even the developed ones. Not only are they often just lovely to look at, but they can also give you ideas for what and how to build in your own settlements if you're stuck. You can also glean layout ideas from the Anno community at large. You'll often see discussion of efficient layouts on the Anno subreddit or in the Annoverse Discord, and if you are really stuck, they are an option to look into. I do want to hop on my soapbox for a quick moment though to encourage you to consider trying your own building styles first. Of course, every person is independent and you'll know yourself best, but it may just be that once you are made aware of the most efficient method to do something, it can be difficult to go back to experimenting or building for reasons outside of efficiency. I personally hold a ton of value in the feeling I get when I figure out the solution to something or a better method myself, so I try to tinker as much as I can on my own. Reading about the most efficient layout for a plebeian's needs first means I won't be able to get that little hit of dopamine when I improve my own island structure, so I'm holding off for a while. Again, you know yourself best and you know how you'll have the most fun playing the game. I'm just some obnoxious YouTuber behind the screen letting you know that the Anno community has lots of awesome solutions and you can choose to or not to implement them in your own games. So I originally wanted to say here that you can trap wild animals, which didn't seem to have a gameplay impact, of course, but was a fun moment nonetheless to set all these fellas free. In trying to recreate the effect, however, I've found that building too close to wild animals causes them to disappear. So that will become this tip instead. It's only a visual thing though, so don't stress about it as far as your island's resources go. And as a bonus, unicorns are apparently canon in this Anno universe. Planning mode exists. Lovely to use so that you aren't tearing through your budget or resources and can tinker around forever, changing your mind. That said, remember that you can move stuff and things, and depending on your settings, moving things may not have a cost associated with doing so. I was surprised to learn you can even move residences and roads. A sneaky use for moving buildings can be the city watch buildings. If you have a fire happening but no vigiles close enough to attend it, scooch one over from somewhere else on the island. Let them do their thing, then scooch it back until you can get better coverage. Ah yes, kindly viewer, City Watch coverage is a thing. If the road in front of a building isn't green when you're looking at that services coverage, the City Watch building won't send its incident unit out to deal with the incident in question. You can see the exact number of tiles range by hovering here, or judge by the green road, or by the effect icons above the buildings. Depending on which other games you've played, this might be a new experience for you. You can place buildings before placing the road that connects to them. Doing one before the other isn't necessarily mechanically advantageous, but it's certainly nice to have the option either way. With the road tool selected, hover over and click a group of buildings to quickly build roads around them. With diagonal roads introduced in Anno 1.17 comes building on the diagonal. Keep in mind that unit measurement changes when you're in diagonal mode. Notice how as I switch between the two angles, the unit squares change size. This means that if you're used to residences being 3 unit squares by 3 unit squares, you may get caught up if you build a 6 wide grid on the diagonal. The diagonal grid needs to allow for 4 unit squares per residence, so a common grid would leave 8 unit squares of space. Decorating with ornaments does give you a bit of prestige, which can be helpful for eking out those last few reasons for a governor to agree to your diplomacy. It may also be worth noting that trees placed from the ornaments menu do not help with production buildings needs like woodcutters. Lavender fields are beautiful, right? And they provide a happiness bonus within range, but 180 squares around them can be a lot. Well, here's a reminder that you don't have to build all 180 tiles of lavender field. Once you have 27 fields placed, the plantation will start operating and the happiness buff will apply within the area of effect. So of course, keep in mind the operating cost of each plantation, but if you're flush with cash and workers, lavender fields can be a great way to beautify some little cheeky areas of your settlement. Press comma when you're placing farmlands. This toggles between placement modes as well as direction, and with fields like lavender, having the different directions next to each other creates a rather eye-catching aesthetic. By default, if you try to place a building and don't have a part of its construction cost available, a plan for that building will be placed instead. You'll have to click this button to construct it once you acquire its needed resources, or use the upgrade tool to do so more quickly. You can also marquee select with the upgrade tool to upgrade or build multiple buildings at once. There are a good few keybinds I think are worth learning to make your Anno building experience much more smooth. From my time with the game so far, I suggest using R for roads, H for building residences. I remember this as H is for house. You could maybe remember L is for building warehouses because you'll lose without them, but I admit I forget to use this one all the time. U for the upgrade tool, G for the move tool, because once I don't need to move things anymore, I will have gotten good, as the youth say. X for demolish, because exterminate. Comma for diagonal or rotate. Using C for the picker tool is wonderful once you've got a bit of a setup already and want to expand it. Rather than navigating the various menus, just picker the buildings you already have placed. I remember this, of course, with C for copy, and V for planning mode because I am very forgetful that it exists. I'm curious which keybinds you use most often, if any. Let me know in the comments, especially if I've missed something vital. An especially whimsical key combo to use is Control-Shift-R, which puts you into first-person mode. You can change your little fella's appearance with 1, 2, and 3, and walk around with wussad. Hold Shift to run and press space to jump. You can even do a cheeky stab or shoot your bow with left click. I haven't figured out how to pet the dog, but I have found that if you left click someone pulling a cart, you become them and start hauling it yourself. It's ever so silly and delightful. You can affect the fire safety rating of your island before unlocking the Vigiles City Watch building by researching and placing wells. This isn't really a necessity, as when you look at your fire safety rating before reaching the requirement for the Vigiles, you'll see it says that your settlement is too small to experience fires anyways. But I think it's a neat little factoid, and my time spent as Sparky the fire dog instilled in me what you might call a burning passion for fire prevention. You can queue so much research. It seems to only be limited by what you currently have access to click in each tree. So as you unlock more of these nodes by fulfilling their requirements, you can just keep queuing research. Wonderfully, when you shuffle around your research queue, it keeps progress. So if I move another tech in front of this one that's almost completed, you can see it will pick up where it left off once it reaches the top. It's the same if you cancel the research item and re-add it. Love this. Once you've fulfilled the requirements of and unlocked these research nodes, you can choose to research the items next to them without completing the full path to that item from the original node of that tree. So see here, I can choose to research tacking even though I don't have a path from the original military node towards it. The locked nodes become a new starting point. Take a sec to read the description of cheese. It's fun. Really, a lot of these little descriptions are cheeky or whimsical, and it's probably worth taking a boo at each of them. I also appreciate the inoffensive bald man basically telling me to touch grass every 2 hours.
It has been 4 hours, Ere. How about a little exercise? 6 hours, Ere. I feel it is my duty to remind you that Rome was not built in a day. The sundial approaches the 8th hour, Ere, and I cannot help but notice you are still here. When did you last wander the streets? 10 hours, Ere. No Roman has ever gone so long without a visit to the bathhouse. Perhaps now is the time? Please, Ere. 12 hours would take a toll on anyone. I assure you, I am perfectly capable of handling the affairs of this city in your absence. 24 hours. I do not feel so good, Ere. I wonder if I may be permitted a short rest. Only while you rest, of course. After which, no doubt, we will both be much refreshed.
Thanks, inoffensive bald man, but I've got it covered. You can edit the values in menus like these maintain stock and minimum stock by clicking and typing the numbers, not just by dragging the slider like I assumed was the case for an embarrassing amount of time. Buildings that require resources in an area around it, like the woodcutter requiring trees, don't necessarily require the entire lightened circle to be filled with the resource to operate at 100% efficiency. Pay attention to the numbers above the percentage shown when you're placing the building. With the woodcutter example, it only requires 80 trees nearby, and as you go to place it, you'll often see that you have well over 80 trees available. The game does seem to take into account the trees that will be displaced by the building itself, but you still need to watch out for the road you will build to it. As you look at different islands, you can see the resources they have available along this edge of the minimap. You'll want to settle islands with differing resources and eventually set up continuous trade routes between your own islands to be able to fulfill all your population's needs. For example, in this game, my starting island didn't have any granite, so I settled this island in the west, got some quarries happening, and shipped them to my main island with a trade route. My ratios aren't especially perfect by any means, but it works for now. A time may come, young governor, when you decide to work on efficiency rather than just plunking stuff and things down all willy-nilly, or perhaps focusing purely on what looks nice. It's at this time that you'll want to assess the ratios of the buildings you place. A simple example is the production chain of shoes. Note the processing times for each step of the chain. Reeds take 1 minute to grow, and shoes take 2 minutes to process. So by the time your shoe is processed, you will have an extra reed not being put to use. The solution is to build a second shoe weaver for each reed gatherer gatherer, thus creating a 1-to-2 ratio of reed gatherers to shoe weavers. Now, this can get complicated and it eventually makes my brain itchy, but I'll go over a trickier example, explain why it actually matters, then show you basically a cheat code and leave you to it. Olive oil is an example where to keep the perfect ratio, you can't default to one building of any step in the production chain because the steps' processing times don't fit nicely into each other. For the sake of learning, transform the olive plantation's 2-minute processing time into just the number 2, and the olive oil processing time of 1.5 minutes to the number 1.5. 2 doesn't go evenly into 1.5 and vice versa. You want to find the smallest multiple of each of these that equals the smallest multiple of the other. 3 olive plantations, so 3 times 2 equals 6. And 4 olive presses, so 4 times 1.5 equals 6. Those 6s matching are what matters. So this means your efficient ratio for olive plantations to presses is 3-to-4. Okay, so who cares? You can plunk down one of each building and still end up producing the final result, right? So what is the point of the maths that makes your brain itchy? Min-maxing each building's maintenance cost is the short answer. To understand fully, let's go back to our reeds and shoes. We have to pay the maintenance cost of each building we place, regardless of if the goods it produces are being used, sent for storage, or even if it stops producing goods because our storage is full and its item can't be put to use elsewhere. So if we aren't using every reed from the gatherer, say because our shoe weavers take twice as long to use one reed, the gatherer will eventually only be outputting its reeds about half the time, even though we're still paying its full maintenance cost. But if we can place and benefit from a second shoe weaver, that reed gatherer never stops producing reeds, so there's nothing wasted from its maintenance. Now, this demonstrates another factor in these ratios, and there are even more. If that second shoe weaver isn't providing any benefit to residences, then it becomes the wasted expense in maintenance cost. You can also consider that some resources are used in multiple production chains, like how reeds are also used for wattle and daub. Then you get into transportation times, trading resources, how many citizens each good accommodates, and stuff like charcoal's burning cycle, and this is where I tap out. Maybe we can get into a full maths lesson in another dedicated video. Instead, let me show you this cheat code. Use Control-Q or click up here to access your production breakdown. Don't worry about the graphs, although they're fun too. Just look at the 2 numbers to the right of the bars. The top set of numbers is the amount you're supplying. The bottom set is the amount you have in demand. You want the supply to be at least the same as demand, preferably exactly the same as demand for the best efficiency. If your supply is lower than demand, place down that many of that building. Let the game run and check it again. Here, I'm apparently producing 2 hemp too few, so I'll place them, make sure they're operating at 100%, and we're good. If you have more than one island, make sure you're assessing this list per island. Once you get to moving products between your islands, you don't need me nattering in your ear about this breakdown anyways. One more maths efficiency production chain tip of doom. Each production chain costs a certain amount in maintenance financially, and often there is a break-even point on it where you make more than the chain costs to maintain. Let's look at tunics for the waders. One hemp farm costs 4 denarii and one spinner costs 8 denarii, and we're placing them at a 1-to-1 ratio, so they total 12 denarii per tunic in maintenance. The spinner has an area of effect attribute that adds 1 income per building it affects, so you want it to affect at least 13 buildings to start making a direct profit. Of course, this can also get plenty more complicated as you get into later production chains or start factoring in things like needing city watch buildings to offset debuffs from buildings in the chain or shipping costs between islands. You get it. Here's the basics. You fly from here. The trading post improvements and warehouse organization techs don't apply to trading posts and warehouses automatically. You have to select one and spend the costs associated to apply the upgrade to each individual building. Another mechanic that I missed for an embarrassingly long time. Production buildings in the same chain will transport goods directly between themselves if they can. That is, if the next stop on the chain is within the range shown by the green road overlay when the providing building is selected. You can see this this in action if you watch the little fellas carting the stuff and things around. This cart is carrying oat directly from the farm to the porridge stand, ignoring the warehouse in between. We can move the porridge stand closer if we want to help out a little. Of course, any excess would then go to a warehouse, and if the next building in the chain isn't within the green range, a warehouse must be, and the good will make a stop at the warehouse before being sent on its way to the next stop in the chain. If you find yourself stuck for what to do next while playing, you can look up what another governor wants to be friendly and work towards it. So here I might look at building a couple more ships and see what contracts are available to work towards a trade treating with Zara. I could also see which buildings I have coming available that offer knowledge as an attribute to help with my research progress. If you need a little hee hee ha ha in your life, or just want to annoy your Twitch chat, spam click notifications and let them sing you the song of their people.
Step. One. We are privileged to serve.
When setting up a new game in endless mode, you can remove all the other governors with this sneaky little rubbish bin. This leaves plenty of room for you to sprawl without having to worry about appeasing or conquering other governors. When you choose the continue button, either right on the title page or from the load game option, this will continue from your most recent save, be that an autosave or a manual save. If you want to make sure you're loading from a manual save that you've made, click somewhere on the portrait that isn't the continue button, choose the save you actually want to load. If you find yourself looking for more or less of a challenge but don't want to start a new game, you can edit many difficulty settings mid-game in this game setup menu. You can also toggle the tutorial back on here if you find yourself thinking, wow, ToadieZz's tips were really helpful. I wish I had something like that in game, but from an inoffensive bald man rather than whatever she looks like. Each Anno title's years, digits, numbers add up to 9. Anno 117, 1 plus 1 plus 7 equals 9. Anno 1800, 1 plus 8, oh, you get it. I've done the same with the number of tips in this video as well as my previous video, which you should absolutely check out if you are new to the Anno franchise and want to get a better grasp on the basics. Another thank you to Ubisoft for sponsoring this video, and a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon. Recently, I've learned that not only does Sparklebot here wear green capri pants on Fridays, but they also dare to roll them up at the bottom so they function like shorts. Pal, just try shorts. They're comfy and easy to wear.